All right, what's going on, everybody? It's not a Browns win unless there's a heart attack involved, but we are here. What was the final score? 29 to what? I can't remember. They don't have it on the screen.
17, was it?
17.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we got 6 at the end. It was 17 to 23 because it was a 6-point game. Yeah. So 29-17.
Yep. So, man, what a kind of crazy game. I mean,
Yeah.
this was just weird all around. Right off the bat, before we get into it, Mike Prefer should be fired. 100% should be fired. He was absolute garbage yet another week. I was terrified. I mean, literally terrified on that onside kick because I was like, man, if this happens 2 weeks in a row, this wall right here that has Joe Thomas's poster on it now. By the way,
Mhm.
got this at the game last week. Great way to honor your man, Cleveland Browns. Great job. Just to blow a game. Anyway, we're not talking about last week. We're talking about this week. If that would have happened again, you would have seen my head through this wall. Like I would have just went live with my head through the wall. Like I'm not even joking. But nevertheless, you're right. 29-17 is the final score. JC is maybe going to join at some point. Who knows? We'll see. But let's get into the game. First of all, Tristan, what's your kind of overall reaction? Because this was a roller coaster.
Yeah. It was certainly a really just weird game. Um, I felt like the offense is something to take pride in this year. I mean, the offense, you can kind of like with Jacoby Brissett back there, man, like he's making things happen. Like he's running this offense like Baker Mayfield was when Baker Mayfield was at the height of his powers here in Cleveland. Like he's not doing anything wrong. He's making plays when we need plays to be made. And if anything, I thought he could have had an even better game if, I know Amari Cooper had a couple of drops. There were a couple of other guys in there as well that had a few drops as well. Like, he could have really had like an unbelievable stat line if there weren't some drop issues. So,
Hey, I got his stat line pulled up here while you
oh
mentioned
yeah,
it.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just going to read it. 21 to 31, which, by the way, unbelievable. I mean, we'll get into this here in a second, but what Jacoby Brissett has done in these last 2 weeks as your backup quarterback has just blown my mind. So 21 to 31, 220 yards and 2 touchdowns on the day for Jacoby Brissett. Absolutely spectacular
Yeah,
day for Jacoby. And last
yeah.
week too. I mean, we didn't get a chance to get a pod in before this game because obviously it's on a Thursday and y'all know our schedules. But I mean, Tristan, the past 2 weeks have been how they were for Jacoby. Like, come on, bro.
Dude. Like we were talking about, we would be lucky to get to 6 wins. Like with him, like there's no reason why we couldn't. Every game that we have, if he's able to play at that level and our defense is able to step up, there's no game that's not winnable. And I don't think it's ridiculous to say that, just because of how talented the team is, and we know what this team can do is in the defense, what it can do when it's at its best. So, I think that. I really do think that he's starting to grow into this role. I remember precisely after week 1. I remember we were talking about Jacoby, and we were talking about how do we think he can improve? Why aren't we seeing Josh Dobbs yet? I can't remember exactly what you said, Derek, but I remember my answer. My answer was, I want to give him some time. I want him to be patient in the offense because it looked like he was just not trusting his eyes and, not trusting his arm, and he wasn't getting the ball in there. And you can see that confidence that he had put into him by Stefanski to say, listen, I know week 1 you were not good. We're still going to rock with you. Go for it, man. And he's really settled into the role. The only thing I will say about Jacoby that is a little bit of a worry, he does start games slow. He takes a drive or two to get into it, and then like at least the past couple of games he has, and then when he's into the game, like man, the offense just goes, man. And he runs it. He's not a problem. He's not limiting the offense. He's just running it as it's meant to. And Stefanski, give him credit, man. He's calling great plays. He's putting Jacoby in a really good spot to win. And, our pass game is good enough to the point where our run game is opening up, and our run game is good enough so that way it's feeding into more opportunities in the pass game. And while we're talking about the offense, I mean, Amari Cooper, I know he had a few drops tonight, but man,
dude, unbelievable.
I cannot believe we had the opportunity to get him this offseason. He is truly special.
Just reading off the receiving stat line from today, this is incredible to me because number 2 on this list, and he was number 1 for a long time in the game, David Njoku, 9 receptions, 89 yards, and 1 touchdown. He was second on your receiving for this game. He went off. Like, I was complaining about the lack of usage as far as tight ends go. Man, Njoku has quickly become Jacoby Brissett's kind of second security blanket. You know what I'm saying? So that's fantastic. And then, like you said, Amari Cooper, 7 receptions, 101 yards, and a touchdown on the day. That might not sound crazy, but just watching the game, like the catches that he was making was high impact plays. Like he was clutch. And this is now, again, we talked about it for Jacoby, 2 weeks in a row of great play from his position. This is now also 2 weeks in a row for Amari Cooper stepping up and being legit number 1 receiver. Like, that is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Amari, right? Like, it's just incredible, man. Like, I saw Jordan Schultz tweeted out middle of the game that Amari Cooper is the first Browns receiver to have 100 receiving yards and a touchdowns in back-to-back games since Josh Gordon in 2013. Like, in I think genuinely this is the best wide receiving output and wide receiving performance we've seen since then. Like, and I don't think it's really particularly close. All the respect to Jarvis and Odell. It just, they never really got into a rhythm here. And, I think part of that, we're now very confidently saying and seeing that it was the quarterback. Because, I mean, man, the fact that Jacoby Brissett couldn't get a starting gig last year, like a stable one. And for him to walk into this team and walk into this offense and look like a guy who's been here for years and a guy who is our starter and who, a guy that we could have a good playoff run with. Like, that's how good he's playing right now. And hats off to him, man. He's making it work. He's doing a great job. And man, the offense is just such a positive talking point. And we do have to kind of damper our expectations just a little bit, just because, TJ Watt wasn't playing tonight. So that is going to have an impact. And I think we do have to keep that in mind. The Steelers defense wasn't as good as it usually is just because TJ Watt, I mean, he was defensive player of the year last year, like he does so much for that defense. So, we do have to throw that in there, but all in all, great offensive display. What do you think about the offense, Derek?
I tweeted it out. It's kind of surprising to me that we'd be talking about how much the offense is carrying this football team, because we talked about it before the season. Basically, you were supposed to be relying on that run game and playing stout defense. And so far, you've gotten Jacoby Brissett playing like a good caliber starting quarterback. Like, not just a starting level. Like, he's playing at a good starting level quarterback. The run game is what it is. Great point by you earlier. Just the fact that you have a threat of the pass game opens up so much more. We saw this last year. Where Baker, for whatever reason, we just weren't able to hit anything in the pass game, and injuries, whatever. We're not here to talk about that, but just the limited pass game as a whole last season hurt Chubb. Hunt was literally out. But so far this season, you've seen a lot of that come into effect to where being effective to some level, like, it's not like we're the Cincinnati Bengals of last year where we're just torching people through the air. But I read it to you tonight. If you can get that out of Amari Cooper now weekly, which is what it seems after week 2, this has been consistent. David Njoku's finally stepping up into that role, that we paid him to be, which is fantastic. And I think we should probably mention the injuries too. So this offensive line, James Hudson came in. Obviously, Conklin, this was his first game playing back. But Jed Wills got rolled up on bad, so that sucks for the offensive side of things. And then Anthony Walker, man, that was just unfortunate, sad. Go ahead, Tristan.
Yeah, it's just he's been having such a great year. Like for a defense that like has been getting absolutely torched by the fan base, like that linebacking group was a very big bright spot. And I'd honestly argue that the best linebacker in that group was Anthony Walker. Yeah, and it's just like, man, my heart aches for him. Like he, when we originally signed Anthony Walker, you had a bunch of Colts fans. You asked Colts fans, how like, tell me about this guy. What is he? He's a natural leader, and it just didn't work. He's a great guy, natural leader, a good football player. Just didn't work in Indianapolis with the direction they were going. And he comes to Cleveland, and that linebacking group, it took steps last year. And this year it started off really well. And, part of it was, and I'd argue a huge part of it was because of Anthony Walker and his leadership. And man, like there's, based off of what it looked like, there's a good chance we don't see him back this year.
Yeah,
and if that's the case, unfortunately, no. If that's the case, if we don't see him back this year, I really hope we re-sign him, man. Yeah. Like I really enjoy having Anthony Walker on this football team. He's a player that like I love saying he's a Brown. I love having him as a Brown. But
he's kind of, to me, he's kind of like the John Johnson of the linebacking core, where he's that vet. I mean, John Johnson played at a much higher level before he came to Cleveland, but still just that veteran presence. Before we move on, sorry, Zachary, I'm meeting to talk about this. We talked about it a little bit off the bat. He says, I don't know about you, but that onside kick took a few years off my life. Dude, I was sitting, obviously you can't see it, but literally, so this is my room. My bed is right there. Like, okay, wait, right there. And I was sitting on the edge of my bed just shaking. Like my leg was just bouncing up and down. And I'm like, I cannot do this. I was on Discord. If y'all know me from on Twitter, Austino. I was on Discord with Austino. And I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, I physically cannot handle blowing this again. Like, I just can't do it. And thank God it happened how it did. Got the flag, whatever, we got the ball back, and we finally finished it on a touchdown. Like that was crazy. But yeah, man, that was not good. Shout out to Kyle. Kyle has been one of the first ever like vocal supporters of mine. And Kyle, I don't mention you enough. I just want to say shout out to you, my friend. You have been very, very good to me, and I appreciate you, my guy. Coach Wilson, I don't want to be too negative, but it shouldn't have been that close at the end. A win is a win. Hopefully they can continue to improve. I absolutely agree with that. And I'll leave this back up. Tristan, let's talk about this, because for me, this defense was a story of two halves. The first half I thought was absolutely terrible. I mean, it was garbage. And it's unfortunate. Najee Harris had I thought a pretty good day on the ground. It wasn't like he was hitting the 20 and 30 yard runs, but he was killing us for the 5, 7, you know what I mean? Like, that's effective. People don't want to admit it, but Chubb and Hunt are so effective because you got two guys that can do that. Najee was kind of doing that to us all day. Mitch Trubisky has his limitations. Obviously, that's going to play into effect. He missed a lot of guys wide open. But hey, man, the first half, not so great. Second half, we finally finished. I would love to see 4 quarters of defense out of this Browns team, but I would rather have you play great in the end when we need it versus starting off hot and giving it up. What do you think about the defense?
Yeah, so my basic overall thoughts on the defense is, listen, for the defense, I think we're all in the same boat here. Joe Woodson, I don't think anybody can trust him. And I did tweet that out after the last game was like he just lost the trust of the fan base like after that performance. So like let's be honest here. Like we're not going to be able to trust Joe Woods to deliver defensive performances consistently up there with some of the teams like the Bills, like the even the Chiefs with Spagnuolo, I believe, right? Like him even with a depleted like they don't have as many resources on defense as the Browns, but he's still able to get consistent production out of that defense. We don't have that guy in Joe Woods, and I think we all know that. So we have two options here. We can either point at things that are positives from this game and things that are improvements and, will the team in the right direction through positivity, or we can be critical. And I think everybody has a right to do both. For me, I'm going to look at the positives. There wasn't any big 40, 50-yard bombs on us this game. Part of that God. I do. Yeah, exactly. Like it was getting ridiculous. And, I think part of that's just because they had Mitch Trubisky at quarterback and Matt Canada calling their offense. But, so there was no big gashes really. And yeah, the second half was better. They only got 3 points. Can't really ask much more. So I definitely thought that the team, as the game went on, at least defensively, they kind of settled in and started to be better. But man, it's just like there's still a lot of work to do defensively, man. That secondary, it's gonna get torched. It's gonna get torched again, and it's gonna happen again this season, and it's gonna be infuriating. So I hope it doesn't, but it will. I'm confident. I just don't see it there.
Yeah, I'm terrified to play Buffalo. I have nightmares of Stephon Diggs and just Josh Allen hitting us deep, because here's the thing. Denzel Ward, I don't know what's going on. What is happening with Denzel Ward? There was times tonight where he actually looked like Denzel Ward, and then there was times where he looked like I can't even remember Sendejo. Like, I know it's two different positions, but man, Denzel Ward, been watching him his entire career at Ohio State. Here, the dude is elite. We paid him this offseason. That's great. Love it. I think he's going to be fine, but for whatever reason, just this defensive scheme doesn't fit well with him sometimes. But what'd you think out of Denzel specifically? Because he's been a hot button topic with this fan base in the last couple of days.
It's so hard to know, because at the end of the day, the only people that do know are the people in that secondary room and Joe Woods. That's the part that's so complicated about all of this, is that, Joe Woods doesn't run a simple system, a simple defensive system. And there were a lot of times things looked like it was Denzel's fault. And he came out after the game and said, I only got targeted once. I don't know what you guys are saying. I was at fault for all of this stuff. Right. But that's how it looks to us. So it's really hard for me to be critical of him right now, just because I don't know what the hell is going on in that secondary. It's so it's honestly so bad. I don't know as though there's one part of the secondary you can look at and you can say, yeah, that's a bright spot for us. There's not. And there's constant.
I'll disagree with you there.
Really?
I got one that has just shocked me, and you know who it is. You'll know who I'm going to say. But man, As critical as I was of Martin Emerson, he has blown me away outside of that fade route last week, which, by the way, I sat there and stared at that end zone corner because I'm like, they're going to hit him on a fade, aren't they? He just go ahead.
I couldn't believe, out of all the times Joe Woods wanted to man up, he put Martin Emerson on Garrett Wilson, on an island. I wanted to curse. I wanted to curse out Joe Woods for that so bad. It's just why would you do that to your rookie? Why would you do that when you have two all pro caliber guys who are very competent in that role? Yeah. But anyways, that was last week. But
but hey, you know what I noticed though? the highlight that's going to be shown around the world, that George Pickens catch, which by the way, I is it better than the OBJ catch?
No.
I mean, it's up there. Just the way he did it, the way he contorted his body. But my point in saying that, and Tony, I haven't talked to you all day. You haven't even been in space. It's so cool. I didn't think you were, and plus you just got home. You were in Columbus, so cry about it. Anyway, the what was I saying? Okay, that highlight with Pickens, right? If you watch that, there's going to be so many people talking about how great of a catch that is, but Emerson had him covered. Like, it wasn't like he got beat and it was just a crazy catch. Emerson was right there. And I've tried to watch him semi-close, just because everything I said, I was terrified about his mobility and his movement, agility, stuff like that. He's been pretty damn good, especially how bad Denzel Ward is playing. Emerson looks great. So as far as bright spots, I gotta say Emerson. I have to.
And I can't necessarily blame you or say that you're wrong for saying that. I just think that he has moments where it's, I'm not fully secure with him. And maybe that's just Joe Woods' fault for putting him in that spot with Garrett Wilson and a couple of other spots similar to that. I just think, I'm not 100% sold, like, as far as like him being like a guy who can be a starter for us. But I will say the promise that he's showing is, promising. He looks like he could be a very, very good corner for us. So, and yeah, spot on. Great throw, great catch, great coverage. Yeah. It
Absolutely.
was on that one. There was nothing he could have done.
Oh yeah, well, and that's kind of what I said. By the way, Tony, if you're still watching, check your DMs if you want to join. Maybe your Amish internet might need some work, but if you want to join, hey, I don't know how much longer we're gonna be going, but all in all, I don't really know how to feel about this game because.
Did you want to talk about special teams?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Special teams.
Okay.
We should probably talk about it, but let's kind of put a bow on the game as a whole.
Yeah.
I wanted to see the defense flip a switch. I wanted to see aggressiveness, and I tweeted it out at the beginning of the game. It was very clear out of the gate who wanted it more. It wasn't even close. The Steelers came out on fire, pissed off. Which, by the way, we should also mention, I mean, this is something we could say every time we do a post game. The officiating was garbage. It was garbage last week, but man, I mean, the tweet going around everywhere about Jack Conklin and then that face mask. I don't know who pissed in Miles Jack's Cheerios today, but he was all day long. He was just all upset. I don't know, but officiating was bad, but yeah, I totally forgot what I was saying. To be honest with you, I'm tired.
Yeah, I feel you there.
Yeah, we can. Refs lost, embarrassing, or looked lost. Yeah, that it was like that last week too. I don't know how it looked on TV, but there was a lot of missed calls last week as well.
Yeah, well, and I mean, the fact that the last 4 minutes of 45 minutes, it was ridiculous. Oh my goodness! The reviewing after you brought out the chains was stupid. Mm-hmm. Why did you bring out the chains? There were a couple of the calls that were missed in there. Sure, there was the Chukwuekoror for landing on Anthony Walker.
Dirty. Yeah. I mean, I've seen linemen do it in high school, but I've never seen a man on the ground get stepped on, and then you want to come off the top rope and just straight up jump on Anthony Walker.
I didn't mind the original hit. It was just a good block, and Anthony Walker got, he just got hit, and that he got hurt, which is unfortunate. After the second part where he jumps on top of him, come on, man. Lighten up, man. Don't lay in your full body weight on this guy, dude. You don't have to do that. it was
It was
unnecessary.
just so unnecessary.
Yeah,
exactly.
unnecessary roughness. Gee, I think that's a penalty, right?
It's supposed to be. Not when you play the Cleveland Browns. Whatever. But yeah, let's move into the most disappointing group, I think, of the season. Well, if you want to call it that, I don't know. Definitely the last 2 games, special teams. I mean, Cade York, I'm going to give him a pass. I know everybody's going to say no, but I'll give him the pass on the missed extra point because that win just absolutely took that. Now, did I get flashbacks to last week? Yeah, I did. And I was a little bit terrified. I even told Austino in the Discord, I'm like, hey, that's going to come back to get us. Like, I'm terrified that's going to come back to get us again. Oh, yeah. Tony, what a day. Anyway, special teams. I mean, Bajorquez is great. He's been fantastic for us. Cade York has been great other than, the here and there a couple of times. But I'm not going to get mad at Cade. But again, Jerome Ford took that ball out of the end zone. I don't know what he was doing. Got tackled on the 10-yard line. Our blocking on anything special teams is atrocious. And then at the end there, that onside kick, it didn't look like we lined up great on that either.
No. And I mean, I know Anthony Schwartz is a receiver, and I like Anthony Schwartz. I like his upside. I don't see why he's a guy on Hans' team.
No.
like I would rather put in a guy who's like a bigger, stronger guy who can take a hit, Anthony Schwartz having somebody running at him full speed like a linebacker, that's just setting him up for failure. Like, why was he on the field? It's like that. It's you guys know I like Anthony Schwartz a lot more than a lot of other fans. That's just not the position to put him in.
Well, yeah, and I mean, when we've talked about Anthony Schwartz, what's the one thing that I said? Like, hey, it's just something going on in his head that he's constantly like afraid to take hits, which by the way, haven't seen a ton of that lately, which is great. For whatever reason, this regular season starts and he's been fine. I have nothing wrong to say about him. But is that a guy you want on the field when you have to secure the ball and you got guys gunning for your head trying to knock that ball off? No. Sorry.
Yeah. I couldn't believe, like, when that kick first went, I couldn't believe the ball just slipped through. It was like a flip of exactly what happened last week. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I actually was about to lose it. I thought they recovered it at first. Mm-hmm. Thank God that ball went out of bounds. Thank God.
Yeah. I had the same thought because I almost turned away. I'm not going to lie. I kind of like took a half glance and I was just like, do I want to watch this? Mm-hmm. Because, man, again, we didn't get to talk, but last week I like right around when all that was happening, like I was sitting with Nick Carnes, I was with Cozy, and I grabbed my stuff and I started to get ready to leave. I mean, we weren't going to leave, but I just kind of got my stuff around, which was literally this and a cup that I left in Cozy's car. So we'll see if I ever get that back. But, and I just kind of stood there, was watching around like, oh, we got it. And then somebody had said, hey, the Jets just got the ball back. And I was like, oh, shoot. So, yeah, I never want to see this team have to get an onside kick again. Like, never.
Yeah.
Never.
No. Last week definitely left a mark. And, man, I was scared with 9 seconds left that they were going to get the 96 yards or whatever the hell it was. That I was genuinely mortified. But
you know what surprised me? Nobody's going to talk about this, but it just caught me off guard. Right before halftime, did you notice that Mitch Trubisky didn't even look downfield? Or not, I shouldn't say didn't look downfield, but instead on a Hail Mary with 0 seconds left, he just checked it down and just kind of gave up. I was like,
yeah,
good job, Mitch.
I don't blame him. I mean, he's not getting much help from the offensive personnel in Pittsburgh right now. So, but it's good news for us. So
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen with Kenny Pickett, because this would be a good time to start him next week, because they also kind of got a mini bye. We do as well. But what do you think? Because Mitch to me wasn't horrible tonight, but he also wasn't good.
no, and I did read on. I think I saw like a Twitter notification that said that. Let me see if I can find it from Ari Myrov that they're definitely not doing a quarterback change or a play caller change. So he already has come out and said that. Really honest, what is Kenny Pickett going to do? Or I guess what's the expectation of Pittsburgh?
I don't know.
What are we imagine we're the Steelers right now. I know, vomit, right? What's the expectation that Kenny Pickett's going to come in and make you a playoff team?
Well, with
No.
TJ out too, that's kind of the
Yeah.
golden ticket to this entire thing.
Exactly. And the thing is Pittsburgh, I know you've had a lot of success over the years, and it's but the roster's just not there. The offensive personnel is not there. At least the coaching, as far as that goes. The offensive line needs a little bit of work still. I think that the position groups are fine, but that's not a Super Bowl winning team. I don't know why these fans think that throwing Kenny Pickett into this is going to elevate them to that, and I don't see why they think it's the best option for their future. I would, if I know me personally as a Browns fan, and my experience of being a Browns fan, I would have full confidence that I know what the hell Mike Tomlin's talking about. There's an obvious reason why Kenny Pickett isn't starting, and Mike Tomlin knows it. And I think I would just trust him. I would trust him. I mean, why throw Kenny Pickett in there now? And we've experienced this as Browns fans where Baker came in, he played great for us for the rest of his rookie year. And then that year two with a not great play caller at all, one of the worst play callers in the league.
One of that he kept. Freddie Kitchens is the worst play caller I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, it was bad. It was bad.
No offense, Freddie.
Still
think you're a nice guy, but you suck. So sorry.
No, it's fine. But but Baker ended up developing some really bad traits that year that he never shook off, and you could argue that year ruined his career. Looking back on it, he was on such a trajectory. He set the rookie TD record. He came into the league and did that, and did it in 3 less games. He was on a trajectory, and that year ruined it. And so, Kenny Pickett, man, let him develop. Let him develop. This team, that team's not ready to win a Super Bowl, right? So let him develop.
And for me, it comes down to a couple things. A, you're not going to have TJ, right? So what is the expectation? We talked about this a little bit ago. What would the expectation be with a TJ Watt less Pittsburgh Steelers team? A. B, with Kenny Pickett, is that offensive line is not great. It's not great. And in the AFC North, am I going to want to throw Kenny Pickett out there to face a Myles Garrett, Clowney when he's healthy? You look at the Bengals, Sam Hubbard, and I totally forgot the name of the other guy. You know who I'm talking about. Trey Hendrickson. Are you going to throw him out there against those guys? No. The Ravens, their defensive line is kind of thrown together a little bit, but I mean, they got talent. I'm just not throwing Kenny Pickett out there with these guys protecting him. The offense as a whole right now is not okay for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that comes down to play calling. That comes down to personnel, whatever. It's just not there. So I agree with you. I wouldn't waste him. I know he's an older player. He's kind of a vet for a rookie, if that makes sense. But just let him develop. Let him get the system, figure everything out that you need to. Mitch is competent. He's not great, but he's not terrible. So yeah, I would wait on starting Kenny Pickett, but I don't know. We'll see. Trying to think anything else that we missed that we should talk about from this game.
I think First Energy Stadium is going to need at least one new upright because Cade York, my God, he probably put a dent in that thing.
Yeah,
It's the sound that came out of that thing. Oh my goodness. But yeah, no. I mean, that's about it for me. I mean, like, honestly, the defense was underwhelming but better. Offense was great. Special teams needs work. A lot of work. So
if I was in charge, Mike Prefer would have been fired before midnight. Sorry. You just can't. Special teams can't cost you games.
no.
You just can't. You saw this with the Packers, and it's like, sorry. I like Mike Prefer as a guy. He seems like a very good dude, but you just can't have it. You just can't.
Yeah. No. He has a really deep roster, like with talented football players, and he gets to pluck and pick and choose which ones he wants on special teams, and like this is the best he's coming up with.
Yeah.
And he's been here for 3 years.
What? Let's go through the coaching staff and let's give grades out to the coaching staff because I feel like this has kind of changed a lot. In a lot of the eyes of the fan base. So I'll let you start it off. Kevin Stefanski, what would you grade him on today?
So for today, I would say minimum an A. I don't know as though I'd say an A plus. There were a couple things, but there were a couple of little of issues, but nothing too crazy. I would just say probably an A. Offensive play calling was great. I really liked the trick play. That one was really cool.
That caught me off guard.
Yeah. And the thing is like from his first season in the league, like we used to do stuff like that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was just so cool because it filled you with such a big, like so much energy, it was so great. But yeah, so for him, an A. How about yourself?
Well, you talking about it, it's making me think. I think I am going to give him a B plus, just because that first quarter I was not impressed with the play calling at all. Personally, I think we just started way too slow, try to force some things in the pass game that weren't there yet. For me, you just keep trying to run the ball, establish the run game first, which, by the way, I think that's what this team needs to do. Let's start off. Let's try to establish the run right off the bat. Do what you got to do. And then let that pass game start to open up because then you're going to get games like tonight with Jacoby where he starts getting in rhythm. That's what I would do personally. That's why I wasn't super high on that first quarter from Stefanski. So that's why I'd give him a B plus.
Yeah. I felt like Jacoby early on in the game was, holding onto the ball too long. I felt like he was like he was having like questions in his head about like what are you seeing, like stuff that we saw in the first game and very first part of the last game. So like that's why I'm not going to put that on Stefanski because we've seen every game from Jacoby and it's gotten a lot better throughout the game. So I think it could just be a Jacoby thing, but time will tell. So.
Yep. All right, Joe Woods. What are you going to grade him today?
It's a tough one.
It is a tough one. So I went to you first.
Yeah.
Hey, before you answer that.
Oh, yeah.
This was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome to see Jacoby just get lit up and go.
Yeah, no, he's awesome. I love him. As far as Joe Woods, you know what? We won today, so I'm going to be a little bit more positive than usual. I'll give him a C,
Okay.
Because there was improvement. And at the end of the day, like my thoughts are out there. I can't trust Joe Woods anymore. I think that at the end of the year, if we miss out on playoffs, He needs to go. But for today, we saw improvement. So you know what? I'll give you a C for that. It wasn't good, but it was improvement.
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a C minus. I really want to say a D plus, but I'm gonna give him a C minus just because of how big of an improvement there was in that second half on defense. But again, there's major problems. One thing I forgot to say when we were talking about the defense, it was great to see Tony Fields get in and have somewhat of an impact after not seeing him at all. I know he's dealt with injuries and stuff like that, but that was great to see. But
Yeah,
all in all, I'm gonna give Joe Woods probably a C minus.
And Jacob Phillips, he stepped up after Walker got hurt, and I thought he looked pretty good too. So figure I'll throw him in there.
Then this one's probably the easiest one.
Yeah.
Mike Prefer.
I mean, if not an F, like it's just above it. I mean, if we were grading the whole special teams unit, it would come up because of Barocas, because he's a punt god. I mean, what got fixed between last week's issues with the special teams and now? Like at least we can look at Joe Woods and say like, hey, we didn't get gashed. Like we, there was some noticeable improvement, and we changed and we improved between the halves. So, I mean, D minus, I guess, because we won. I'll bump them up a little. D minus.
Yeah, I'm gonna go D minus as well. I agree with you here. I want to give him an F, but you didn't blow it at the end. And based on last week's standards, that is even below an F if you can get that. So, I mean, but still, it's not acceptable. I mean, it is blatantly unacceptable how terrible his return coverages are, his blocking, the onside kick formations we've now seen 2 weeks in a row, just everything. And York missing, I'm not going to blame on Prefer, especially not tonight because that wind was terrible. But I don't know, man. I think we got great talent at the punter position and at the kicker position. And outside of that, I don't know.
Question mark. It's a big question mark.
I don't know.
And we got the best long snapper in the league, Charlie Hewlett.
Mm-hmm. Nice to see him have that C on his jersey. Nice to see. Yeah. Which, by the way, I'm sure nobody else cares about this, but it's a pet peeve of mine. Nice that we have the captains permanently on the jersey. We're not switching them every week. I hated that. Nick Chubb's got to have a C on his chest every game. Like, come on, bro. But Coach Wilson with a good point here. I forgot about this. The tipped punt. That is yet another failure of your blocking on special teams. So, it's unfortunate. But anyway, we got the Falcons next. This Browns team is now 2-1. Should be 3-0. 3-0, but we're 2-1. Falcons, winnable game. After that, you have the Chargers without Justin Herbert. I'm not going to say that's should win because I don't believe it should win even without Herbert because that is a talented team. But you should be in that game. I mean, you should have a shot to win that game. So if you're going to right any wrongs from losing to the Jets, let's get the job done against the Falcons, which I think we can do, even though they've been better than a lot of people think, which, of course, I was going to say just don't give up balls deep to Drake London or Kyle Pitts, but
time will tell.
It's unfortunate. Unfortunate. But, hey, man, you know what? You are now, what are we, 1-0 in the division? So you got to win today. Hey, let's look at the bright side. Last year, the Pittsburgh Steelers swept you. This year, you're at least 1-1, baby. At least we're halfway there. We're already improving. Let's go,
baby.
So, hey, if there's as much as the negatives as you can talk about, there is a positive. So, With that being said, for everybody, Tristan, in this mini bye week, we will probably have a podcast out before the Falcons game. We'll talk more about this game, talk a little bit about the Jets game since we didn't get a chance, and preview the Falcons. So we'll do that. Sorry, everybody, that JC wasn't here. Shocker, he doesn't want to show up. However, he does have an excuse. His what is he? The cat is what he calls him. Almost never. His child. All right, I'm just gonna say it. His child was sick. Right. So he gets a pass today. Won't be leaving him any phone calls, or at least not yet. Maybe I'll do one tomorrow just to piss him off. But yeah, sorry he couldn't be here. Tony, I sent you the link. You never showed up, so don't blame me.
Boo.
Yeah, exactly. Shorts. Anyway, Tristan, you got anything else before we wrap up here?
No, not really. I mean, just, man, I really hope down the stretch that Jets game does not bite us. I pray.
I hope so too.
Because if it does, I will probably cry for weeks on end if that means us not getting in the postseason this year.
Absolutely. By the way, speaking of postseason, before we wrap up, Micah Parsons, did you see his tweet?
Oh, yeah. He said the Browns are definitely making the postseason, and when Watson gets there, it's going to be crazy or something.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
The thought of Watson in this offense is just like, man.
It's nuts.
Yeah. If Jacoby's doing this well. Jacoby.
One other point that I forgot to mention, and I know I keep saying that, I wish we could see some more out of DPJ. The last 2 weeks has been pretty disappointing. But I do think kind of what we saw tonight will be how the season goes receiving-wise. I think top of your list is going to be Amari Cooper and David Njoku. But over the course of the season, I would like to see DPJ step up, and I'd like to see David Bell get involved more as well. He was on the field a lot more tonight, so that's a positive. So, we'll see. Time will tell with that. He's a rookie, but that will be good to see whenever it comes. So, anyway, with that being said, everybody who commented, thank you. Everybody who came and checked us out here tonight, thank you. Appreciate it. We can actually have a victory. What is tomorrow? Friday? Victory Friday, not a Victory Monday. Victory Friday. And I don't have to be pissed off at work. So,
yeah.
Thank you.
All the Steelers fans at my work, be ready. Be ready.
Yep. As they should.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, everybody, hopefully you have a good rest of your night. It is now Friday. Have a good day. And we'll see you in the next one. Have a good one, everybody.